Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. In today's video I want to show you how to create a simple stylized 3D bicycle. Pretty straightforward and simple thing. I will be using several techniques to do this, mostly curves, and show you how to come up with simple bicycle structure, and then optionally how to refine some of these details. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see short tutorials like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button to get notified when I release something new. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave that like, it really helps the channel. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. Now let's jump right into empty Blender file, and before we actually start modeling, we need some reference to get the proportions right. Basically, you can just go ahead and Google bike blueprint keywords. I've put a link in the description for the blueprint I'm using here. Let's just go for a side view by pressing 3 on a numpad, and now let's go to your folder and just drag and drop the image you downloaded right here, and optionally we can press Alt-G to reset. And I want to change the orientation of this blueprint because I want the front of the bike to be here. So let's press S, then Y and -1 to flip it. And let's just go to the object data properties and enable opacity and reduce to something really small. So we basically just see the proportions, and I will enable side front so it's visible only from the front and disable it in perspective. And optionally we can enable these toggles and disable the manipulation of this. So that's for the blueprint, and we can start modeling the bike right away. Optionally, if you want, you can just drag this up so the wheels are sitting on the axis there. And first I want to start by adding a vertex. You can do this by enabling extra objects in the add-ons, and then you will have this single vert option here, or you can just add a plane, tab in and press M and merge at center. That will merge all of your vertices into single one that you can then move around with G, whatever works for you. And now let's press G and move this vertex right here. This is where we'll start our modeling. The reason why I'm starting with the vertex instead of curve directly, I simply just like editing mesh more than curves in Blender. I think there are a lot of tools to help you shape those edges and vertices, so that's why I always choose this approach. And we can continue by extruding this single vertex. So let's press E, then Y, and extrude it right here. And we can continue this way throughout the whole blueprint, but keep in mind please that I don't want to just go and extrude this piece right here. I want to duplicate that vertex and extrude once again, and you will see why later when we convert to curves. So let's press Shift D to duplicate this vertex, and I will just place it here and press E and extrude down towards the middle of this axis. And I will do the same here. So Shift D to duplicate and E to extrude right here. Okay, and now I will Shift D once again, place it right here and extrude towards here. Now here we can join these two, so let's just drag a selection there. Let's press M and merge at center. I think they could work together, and then I will continue right here. So press Shift D, and if you want to place it on the same place, just right click to release and continue by extruding towards here. And now I will continue extrusion by pressing E and dragging this down here, or maybe even here, and let's move this down tiny bit. Okay, and let's press Shift D on this one here, right click to release and E to extrude down, and here we can extrude multiple vertices to create this curvature right there. So this is what we have here. If you rotate this, this doesn't look like much, and some of these need to go to a separate object. So I will take care of that right now because I want to mirror them later. So let's press L over this one and L here, and let's press P, enter to separate them into a separate object. And before we convert these to curves, let's give them that mirror modifier and, you know, move them a little bit to the side so there's a space for wheels. So let's add that mirror modifier here. Press A to select all, and we can deselect these two. Press G, then X, and move them to the side like this. Okay, that works fine so far. We'll just need to eyeball the width here. How much space do we actually need for the wheel? I think we'll need more space here in the back. So this one here can go a little bit closer maybe. And now we can select this top vert right here, press E, then X, and extrude it inside. We don't need to auto merge here, so I won't enable clipping. And to create some of these curves, and that's why I love the mesh modeling, I can simply select the vert, press Ctrl Shift B, and just bevel it like this, and increase the number with the mouse wheel, and I have a nice curve without like messing up things with Bezier curves or something like that. So I really enjoy working like this, and I will do the same here to create a little curvature. So let's press Ctrl Shift B and create a small curve here. So this will be the base for our bicycle frame. Now before we convert this to curves, let's edit the first object as well. I want to bevel this connection down here, so let's select this vertex and bevel it like this, and you can optionally move it down a tiny bit if you want. Okay, works just fine. So let's press A to select all. Let's go to Object, Convert, and pick Curve. And now in the Object Data Properties, in the Geometry section, if you don't see it, you can expand it like this. You can just increase the depth. I will do this by holding Alt, so I'm doing it for both objects like this. Let's check our reference. Something like this should work fine, and obviously some of these parts are not so beveled, so you can do these separately. If you go into the edit mode of the curve and press Alt S, you will scale the radius as well. So let's do it just for this section right here and scale it down a tiny bit. Okay, so that's the base for our bicycle frame, and again we can now move this a little bit. And here you can see why I chose to separate some of these vertices, why I duplicated them, because when it's connected it can really like distort your mesh, and if you just leave them separately like this, it will nicely connect. So that's the frame, and let's continue with the second main thing, and that would be the wheels. So let's press Shift A and let's add the circle, and I want to leave this at 32 vertices, so let's just tab in, press R, Y and 90 degrees, tab out, and we'll place the middle of the wheel here, of course. And now we can tab back in and make this smaller, just like that. And now let's move it to the side a tiny bit. Let's press G, X and move it to the side. And I want to add a mirror modifier here as well, and this time I will enable clipping and just press E, then X and extrude it towards the middle, and alt click the other loop and press F to cover that, and let's hold Z to toggle X-ray. If you don't have this extra pie menu activated in the preferences, you can turn the X-ray right here as well. And let's press I to inset this just like that, and now I will extrude a tiny bit inside and inset once more. And now I want to just press X and delete faces, alt click the loop and connect there. So press E, then X and connect. So this will be a basic shape of our wheel. Now we can just bevel this. Let's alt click that loop and press Ctrl B to bevel just like that. And we can of course bevel this inside rim as well, just a tiny bit. So this will be a base for our wheel, and now we'll need the middle part. So let's hold Shift S and choose cursor to select it. And now let's press Shift A and let's just add the cylinder. That should be enough. And we can reduce this to a half, so something like 16. And let's go into the edit mode, press Tab, press S to scale, R, Y 90 degrees, and S and X to scale it out. Of course, these parts will need to be refined, and the way you refine them, that will be totally up to you. So far, I will just block out these essential parts of the bike, and then we can just dive into these separate parts to see if they can be or needs to be detailed at the scale we need this bike to work. And now let's go and create the spoke patterns inside the wheel. I think there are a lot of those. I have no idea how many types of these patterns are there and what they do and how they do it. Basically, I just want to create a simple pattern that looks like a bike wheel and the one that will be easiest to create for you. So let's press Shift A and let's add the circle. And now I want to tab in, press R, Y 90 degrees, and let's scale this down so it kind of barely touches the rim there. Okay, now press F and I to inset, and let's make this smaller so it touches the middle. And now we can press X and delete faces there. And now what I want to do is to go to edge select by pressing 2 and Control Alt click these loops so we select them all. And now let's go to select and checker the select. I want to select just every other of these, and I will press P and enter to separate this into a separate object. And now I will select the original circle, press X and delete. So this is what we are starting from, and that's basically only the half, but that's exactly what we need right now. So let's tab in, and I will again toggle X-ray. Remember, you can do that right here. And let's select these middle vertices and push them outside. So press G, then X, and move them somewhere here. Okay, now let's look from the side, and actually it's visible here on the blueprint. It's a little hard pattern to make out, so I will simplify this for you. Basically, we'll just need to spin this inside to better match that pattern, and I think something like minus 60 degrees will be enough here. And then we'll need to do similar thing on the other side. So let's tab in, let's press Shift D to duplicate this, right click to release in place, and let's just press S, X and -1, that will flip it on the other side. And let's tab in. First of all, let's press A to select all, and we'll need to rotate this so we fill these missing parts here. So let's press R, and by holding Control we can snap to angles, and let's snap it right here. And then we'll just select the middle part and we'll rotate to the other side. So remember, we rotated 60 degrees, so we'll now need to go 120 degrees in the opposite direction. So let's press R, 120, and confirm. And basically that's it. If you look at this, I think it will pass just all right as a wheel spoke. The last thing we need to do is to select both of those. We can press Ctrl J to join them into one object, and let's go to Object, Convert to Curve, and we can give them some thickness in the geometry section, just like that, and we have ourselves some wheel. What I want to do right now is to select the wheel parts. I think I got them all, and just press Alt D and Y to duplicate them on the other side, just like that. And let's create some other parts of the geometry of the bike so we can finish with this. We can use snapping to identify places where we need to continue. So let's tab in here and select this vert and Shift S cursor to select it, and we can now just add new mesh, single vert, and extrude other parts of the bike just like this. Okay, and here it's not visible very well, but we'll need to finish and go into the mirror mode. So let's rotate this. Now we'll press Shift D, right click to release, and P enter to separate to another object. You can see it here in the outliner, so we can tab out, select a new one, tab in, and just start extruding. So press E, then X, and extrude it outside. We don't have the front reference, so we'll need to eyeball this. So after extruding to the side, we can just extrude this shape right here. Just like this. And now we can add a mirror modifier and enable that clipping. That should be enough. And additionally, we can refine this part here, so there's a little bit more geometry going on. And now let's select this object once again and tab in, and let's snap the cursor right here. And I will press Shift A and add a new single vert, and then press E to extrude up, and we'll have a place for the seat. So let's move the cursor right there. Let's tab out and let's create the geometry for the seat. So I will start with the plane. Let's make this just smaller. And again, I'm a little bit hazy on the bike details. So please bear with me if I mess this up horrendously. Biking is not one of my free time activities, so it will be probably up to you to make this properly. So let's press A to select all, and I will extrude it down and move it like this. And this will make more sense when we add some subdivision. So let's press Ctrl 2. And probably this is not so bad. Okay, I will go with this one here, but add a little bit sharper shape down there by adding a loop cut. And of course, we'll probably don't need these bottom faces, so let's just press X and delete them. We can maybe make this go inside a little bit. And of course, later you can add solidify, you can add some, I don't know, parts there like springs, whatever you need. And now I want to create curves from the rest of this, but here I need more geometry. So let's press Ctrl Shift B on this vertex to bevel it. So we have some actual curvature there. And now we can tab out, select all of these meshes and just go Object, Convert to Curve, and adjust the bevel by holding Alt. So we are applying this to all of them. And if you're worried about these holes at this point, you can always just select any curve and enable fill caps that will close this up for you. Same here as well. And basically we are getting to a really nice bicycle shape, I think. The rest will be probably just adding some mechanical parts that the bike needs, and of course the pedals. First of all, we can drag this even lower maybe. Let's reset the cursor to world origin. Let's add a circle, and I think 24 should be enough here. R, Y, 90 degrees in the edit mode. Let's scale it down, and don't forget to tab out so we are moving the origin point as well. And let's place it here, and we'll press Shift D and move the circle there as well. If you want to be really precise, you can always just select the cylinder, hold Shift S cursor to select it, and then click the new circle and hold Shift S and choose selection to cursor, so that will snap into the middle exactly. Now tab in and make this smaller. And I don't want to like make the shifters and everything, so I will make this just one speed bike just to keep things simple basically. And here in the middle, I want to snap the cursor there as well and add another cylinder there to close that shape up a little bit. So R, Y, 90 degrees, and make this smaller. Just like that. And there are multiple ways how to approach the pedals. Basically, I will just reuse some of this geometry. So let me tab in, press Shift D to duplicate the circle, right click to release, P, enter to separate. And now I will make this smaller in place and extrude outside. And let me do a small loop cut here, just like this, and I will extrude the bottom faces like that. Let me check the reference. I think this length should be enough. Okay, that'll do. And now I can just add a plane, make it smaller, press G, then Z, move it down somewhere here maybe. Let's look from the top. We can press G, then X, move it to the side, and scale it like this. Okay, and if you want to make it a little bit more detailed, you can of course like split it and then maybe insert these parts individually by pressing I repeatedly, to create these openings like that, and then maybe push this outside. And let's hover, press L, and extrude this out, so we have some pedal design here. Of course, optionally, we can bevel this part by pressing Ctrl B on these edges there, and by enabling auto merge and sliding these vertices by pressing G twice, we can simplify this. So we have quads there, and this should later work with subdivision as well if you want it to work. Let's press J to join those. Okay, that's fine by me. And to make it on the other side as well, you can just press Alt D and then SX-1 and SZ-1 as well. And this way you have the same object that's a link duplicate, but you have it flipped on the other side and you can use it like that. So let me rotate it a little bit so it looks a tiny bit better. Of course, it will probably look better if we separated these pedals from these shafts, so basically they can properly rotate. This wouldn't work so fine with the bike, but for the illustration purposes, I think I will leave it just like this and continue with the rest of the bike. Of course, there are some adjustments I need to make. For example, here I think we'll need to adjust the position of these. I want to do this in X-ray, so we select that one on the other side as well. And I've just noticed this part here got merged, which I don't like, so I want to get rid of the other side and just add a mirror modifier there. We can do the same for the front part, but be careful here, because if you just select these vertices and delete them, you will get a shape like this. This is why I don't like to work with curves that much. So instead of just like going on and figuring out how to break that cyclic curve and stuff like that, I can just select these two words, press right click and delete segment, and then delete these. So that will leave us with the right part of the curve we want. And let's go back into the edit mode, press L hovering over this part, press X and delete vertices, and now we can go on and add a mirror modifier. This will make things simpler for us later, of course, and we can close this up a little bit better. So I think we will need to drag this a little bit lower, and overall I think we have a nice bicycle shape here. Of course, there are a lot of things to do here if you want to add wheels and a chain. So that's the bike so far. Of course, there are a lot of details we can take care of here, and there are a lot of ways how this can be finished. So for example, you can really dive into those details, you know, edit these elements, split them, extrude stuff, whatever you want. If you really want to get as close to a real bike as possible, really depends how close you want to get with your camera when rendering this out. If it's part of a larger scene or like a city diorama and you just need a small bike there placed somewhere, this level of detail is more than enough to accommodate. If you want to make it smooth, for example, you can always just select some of these curves, press Ctrl 1 to add the subdivision surface, right click, shade smooth, and you have yourself some smooth bicycle parts. So however you want to finish this, it's all up to you. Basically, if you had no problem getting to this point in this tutorial, you should be pretty comfortable by editing your meshes, you know, and converting some of these curves to meshes if you want to detail them out, creating these wheels, a little bit of gears. By the way, if you enable extra objects add-on, there are some gear meshes that you can use, customize, and stuff like that, so that will be really helpful for the scene like this with the bike, and finish up with some smaller details. I will now fast forward through this process. I will finish this up into like a small illustration as always, and I will see you on the other side. So that's the bike illustration for you. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave that like, and again, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe if you want to see more short tutorials like this in the future. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.